What the hell happened to TV? All your favorite shows are getting canceled. The few that do stick around make like 6 episodes every 2 years. And all the most popular shows are reruns from 20 years ago. I guess people are nostalgic for the good old days when you worked in an office and TV didn't fucking suck. Somehow, even though the average user is now paying more for streaming than we ever were for cable, the companies are all losing money and the people who actually make the shows are barely scraping by. You know, I thought the streaming revolution was supposed to fix TV and usher in a golden age of cheap, high-quality, watch-when-you-want entertainment. So what the hell happened? Well, the answer is that the entire streaming revolution was built on a lie that is on the verge of destroying one of the most successful industries in the world. And you know, this one is personal to me because I happen to work in this industry. But none of us are safe because the big tech playbook that gutted Hollywood is gearing up to annihilate your industry next. Now, before we get into it, I just want to thank everybody who supports this show on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. You can get every monologue and podcast I put out ad-free. But more importantly, you can join our online community full of smart, curious people who love complaining about how screwed up the world is just as much as you do. Head to patreon.com/Adam Conover and join us. We would love to have you. And of course, if you like stand-up comedy, come see me on the road. Head to adamconover.net for all my tickets and tour dates. Here are some of those dates right now. Wow. Come see me, adamconover.net. Remember 2013? We were all eating froyo and doing the Harlem Shake at the thrift shop with Macklemore, and everything on TV was amazing. Critics were calling it a new golden age of television and peak TV. TV was such a cultural force that entire websites were devoted to recapping the previous night's episodes, and the shows themselves were genuinely incredible. You had cutting-edge dramas like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, crowd-pleasing comedies like Parks and Rec and New Girl, edgy satire like Veep and Eastbound and Down, and massive hits like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead. And sure, there were some annoying things about the old days of TV. There was that big cable bill, you had to watch all those Geico caveman ads, and you had to wait a whole week to see what wigs they'd wear on the next episode of The Americans. A whole week for wigs! Companies were making bank, the writers, actors, and crew were making a living, and the shows were so good that people were literally saying that TV was better than movies. But you know what? Today, nobody is saying that shit. When you open Netflix or Peacock or Max, you see a bunch of shows you've never heard of that nobody is talking about. I mean, which one of these is a real show and which one was mocked up by my producer, Tony? You don't even fucking know. And once you finally find a show you like, it gets 2 6-episode seasons if you're lucky, and then it's canceled. I mean, what is this, England? Was the Boston Tea Party for nothing? And even though it now costs more to have the top streaming services than it did to have cable, the streamers are somehow losing money. Maybe it's because the executives keep buying so many ugly-ass puffer vests. I mean, how else could Peacock lose almost $1 billion in 1 quarter? And how, in 2022, could Titan of Industry and Canadian tuxedo ruiner David Zaslav lose Warner Brothers Discovery over $2 billion in 1 quarter? I mean, we knew the guy was good at murdering your favorite character, but somehow he's also murdering his own profits. So how did this happen? How is Hollywood losing money by the Zazful while you pay more? Well, the answer goes back to the big tech company that promised to revolutionize Hollywood, Netflix. Let's travel back to the 2010s, the golden age of television. Netflix was fresh off the bloody evisceration of their loathsome enemy Blockbuster. Americans cheered their victory, their stock price was through the roof, and Netflix was looking for its next dinner. So, they decided to storm the gates of Hollywood with a brand new business model, streaming. Netflix made the public a simple promise. For $8 a month, you could watch almost any show ever made whenever you wanted with no ads. This was an almost impossibly good deal, and the public went feral for it. So many people canceled cable and signed up for Netflix instead, the media gave the phenomenon a name, cord cutting. But this almost incredible deal was always too good to be true. How was it possible to replace all of television with a service that costs just a few cups of coffee a month and has no ads? I mean, advertising used to fund almost the entire television industry. You weren't actually paying the bills, the Zoom Zoom kid was. Zoom Zoom. Zoom Zoom. the fuck was that ad? So how could Netflix afford to offer such an amazing deal with no ads at all? Simple. They were subsidized by Wall Street, who showered them with ta-dum loads of cash because they told investors that they'd disrupt the entire industry and form a monopoly. And just so you know that I'm not exaggerating when I say that, a Netflix executive literally said that their entire objective was to replace all of television. Netflix grew so quickly and was so blunt about their quest for world domination that the rest of the entertainment industry shit their fucking pants. I mean, the network heads saw what Spotify did to the music industry, and they did not want to become the next meal. So when confronted by this new threat, they did what good capitalists have done since the dawn of time. They ripped their competitor off. Every entertainment company rushed to launch a Netflix clone. Paramount created CBS All Access, Paramount Plus. Warner Brothers launched HBO Max, pretty soon they're just going to be calling it meh. And Disney created both Disney Plus and Hulu, which they're now trying to smash together like two dickless Ken dolls. Each of these companies threw away the profitable business model that has sustained them for decades in order to replace it with Netflix's. But this was a deadly mistake because Netflix was never designed to be a sustainable model for a television network. It was designed to kill the television industry. It was a Trojan horse containing within it 3 fatal flaws that, when duplicated by the legacy networks, caused their businesses to collapse. First up, we have Netflix's most famous invention, binge watching. At first, binging was a cool novelty. Instead of waiting a week to watch your favorite show, you could gorge yourself on the whole thing right away. When House of Cards dropped, an executive I used to work with at College Humor bragged to the whole office that he watched the entire season the very night it dropped. And at the time I thought, wow, this guy gets paid a lot of money to have more free time than me. But today, binging has become an obligation. In fact, it's now how the streamers measure success. They expect their audience to binge the entire show as soon as it drops, and if we don't, they cancel it. But who has time for binging now? The average American is lucky to have half an hour free after working 2 jobs to pay rent and putting the kids down. If we're binging on anything, it's cereal for fucking dinner. We're supposed to watch 5 hours of TV a night, and if we don't, Wednesday gets it? That's ridiculous. Binging is literally a use disorder. Binge eating, binge shopping, binge drinking, none of those are good things. In fact, binging is bad for the shows themselves. That's because binging kills the most important form of marketing in television, word of mouth. With a weekly release schedule, every time a new episode comes out, people talk about the show. Almost no one watched Breaking Bad on the day the first episode dropped. They watched it after hearing 10 friends for 10 weeks say, I need someone to talk about Walter's Tidy Whities with, or I'll go breaking mad. But with binging, that momentum never has time to build. A show drops, and then a week later, no one is talking about it. Earlier this year, Netflix released a new $160 million show from the creators of Game of Thrones. But I bet you haven't thought about that one in a while. This was a good show, but it was in the conversation for 3 days, and then everyone went right back to watching Suits. The obsession with binging is also why the streamers make seasons that are so short now. When I made the G word for Netflix, we were told that our target was to make it short enough that people could binge the entire series in just one night, because that's what looked best for Netflix's success metrics. And you know what? That's all well and good for a limited series like ours. But there are so many types of shows that just don't work with a binge model because they're better consumed a little bit each night for months on end. The reason people like sitcoms is because you get to spend long enough with the characters that they start to feel like your literal friends. And that is why some of the most popular shows on streaming aren't Netflix originals. They're reruns of old cable and network shows that made dozens of episodes every season for hundreds of episodes. And yet, despite their overwhelming popularity, none of the streamers are making shows like these anymore. In fact, entire genres of TV that people love have just disappeared. You can't binge game shows and you can't binge late night shows, so the streamers don't make them at all anymore. But that doesn't mean people don't want to watch them. The game shows that my friends at Dropout make are wildly popular, and late night comedy actually has more viewers than it ever did. They're just watching it on YouTube. I mean, you are literally watching me do what I used to do on TV right next to where you watch Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. And that means that the companies could have come up with a business model for streaming that supported daily or weekly content. But no, they all followed Netflix, gorged themselves on binging, and threw up entire genres of television into the YouTube toilet. Hey, speaking of streaming subscriptions, how closely do you track your bank statements and credit card history? Are you combing through every single charge on a regular basis, or do you just assume everything is fine until you notice something weird? Honestly, I don't have time to watch my accounts that closely, but now that I'm using Rocket Money, it does all of that for me, so I don't have to worry about it. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. With Rocket Money, I have full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. I can see all my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, Rocket Money can help me cancel it with just a few taps. I love how the dashboard shows me this month's spending compared to last month so that I can clearly see my spending habits. Plus, they'll help me create a custom budget and keep my spending on track. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They'll even deal with customer service for you. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's features. So, stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/Conover. That's rocketmoney.com/Conover. The second fatal flaw at the heart of the streaming revolution was the death of the media brand. So, back in the old days, before Netflix, the big media companies divided themselves into multiple sub-brands, otherwise known as channels, each of which was for a different audience. As a teenager, I watched Comedy Central because I loved comedy and bleeped swears, while my sister watched Animal Planet because she was an animal lover who was obsessed with meerkat gossip. And my grandpa watched TV Land because he was f***ing old. These were famous, popular, valuable brands that people loved. I mean, I literally identified with Comedy Central. It felt like a channel that was made for me. And that was good for the company because advertisers were willing to pay more to reach a specific audience of dumbass, edgy 16-year-olds. But Netflix didn't want to target a specific audience. Their goal, remember, was to be a monopoly, so they needed to be everything to everyone. So what did the legacy media companies do to compete with that? They threw all those beloved brands in the fucking trash. Comedy Central was once the most important brand in American comedy. They didn't just create some of the most successful TV comedies of all time. They also produced stand-up specials, comedy albums, and live events. They were an essential part of the infrastructure of the entire comedy industry. There is no reason that Paramount, Comedy Central's parent company, couldn't have come up with a business model that brought this beloved brand into the digital age. But no, in the process of competing with Netflix, Paramount fired Comedy Central's leadership and forbid it from making new scripted shows. And now it's nothing more than a sub-pane on Paramount Plus. This happened across the media ecosystem. MTV, one of the most famous TV brands of all time, now airs nothing but reruns and doesn't even exist on streaming. TBS, TNT, my old network True TV, all famous brands that used to make unique shows that people loved, had their entire staffs laid off and now make nothing. And even HBO, one of the most valuable brands in media, the cathedral of television synonymous with quality, Warner Discovery took its goddamn name out of the streaming service. I mean, I understand HBO Max. It's HBO, but there's more. But what the f*** is Max? Maximum what? It's like if Coke Zero changed its name to Zero. What's in the bottle? F***ing nothing. But the media brands of a decade ago weren't just good for business. They were good for television as an art form. Because they attracted a specific audience, they caused the companies to make unique shows that catered to the tastes of that audience. That's how we got edgy dramas on FX, cutting-edge comedy on Comedy Central, and weird-ass stoner animation on Adult Swim. But when you try to be everything to everyone, you just end up making flavorless pap. I mean, Netflix describes the perfect streaming show as a gourmet cheeseburger. And yeah, sure, everyone's fine eating a gourmet cheeseburger. You know why? Because they all taste the same. But if you want to cook a dish that's daring, Something new and different, you have to take a risk that not everyone will like it and cater instead to a more specific taste. So if you've been wondering why the streamers have started making generic, common denominator programming choices, I think this is why. They stopped trying to make you happy and they started trying to make everyone happy. And that is simply not a recipe for greatness. It's the recipe they use at the Guy Fieri burger joint on a Caribbean cruise. No shade to Guy, by the way. I love Triple D. Give me that donkey sauce. Zoom, zoom. And that leads us to the third and biggest problem with the streaming business model. See, Netflix's goal was to take over the world, but they did so by copying the most exclusive, least scalable business model in television, HBO. See, back when Netflix started, HBO was the most prestigious and admired network on television, so Netflix set out to copy them. CEO Ted Sarandos even said, the goal is for us to become HBO faster than HBO can become us. But at that time, HBO was just one small part of the television ecosystem. It was a premium status symbol paid for by rich people who didn't want to pollute their viewing with tawdry ads. HBO was so fancy, it was literally advertised as a perk at hotels. Ooh, how la-di-da, a place where I can cheat on my wife sexually and by watching The Sopranos without her. But in reality, most people couldn't afford HBO. Hell, half of us watching Game of Thrones were just borrowing the password from our rich friends' parents. The real cash cows of the TV industry were free ad-supported broadcast channels like CBS, NBC, and ABC, and paid ad-supported cable like Nickelodeon and Comedy Central. The advertising on those channels subsidized the cost of the media, lowering the price to a level where more people could watch. It is simply not possible to get as many people to tune in for $15 a month as you can for free. Because the truth is, as much as we all hate ads, and I do hate them, we hate paying for shit more. I mean, you could watch an ad-free version of this video if you just subscribe to my Patreon, but you didn't do that because you'd much rather watch me do an ad and get the content for free. And that's fine. If you want as many viewers as possible, you have to offer an ad-supported option. It was simply never going to be the case that the future of TV was everyone subscribing to multiple ad-free HBOs for $15 a pop. There are simply not enough rich people on the planet to make that sustainable. So by throwing away the advertising business model that had supported them for decades, the legacy companies did massive damage to their own businesses. They are now losing money hand over fist, while Netflix, the company that tricked them into running off the cliff, is close to its goal of replacing all of TV. And so what is Netflix doing? Why, they're adding ads and jacking up the price. Which, of course, they were always going to do. That too good to be true deal was always just a promo, funded by Wall Street and designed to help Netflix kill the competition and take over the industry. And all the other CEOs were so gutless and so brainless that they fell for it. They threw out the advertising, the sub-brands, and the weekly release schedule that made them fucking rich. But you know what? Bob Iger and Zaz, they're gonna be fine. They're still making bank. It's the rest of us who pay the price. Hollywood has started making less shows. And since August 2022, the entertainment industry has seen more than a quarter of jobs laid off. Things got so bad last year that writers and actors had to go on a 6-month strike for basic worker protections. And even though we won enormous gains in that strike, including protections against AI, today writers, actors, and the crews that make your favorite shows are struggling to find work. Why? Because these idiots killed a profitable industry chasing a big tech mirage. And did we get the revolution they promised? No. TV is worse, we pay more, and average workers can barely make a living. The rich got richer, and everyone else got fucked. And the worst part is, this bait-and-switch business model is coming for every industry in America. Uber and Lyft did it to the cab industry. Amazon did it to the retail industry. Airbnb did it to the entire housing market. They use Wall Street money to undercut the competition. Then once they're in charge, they jack the prices up on you, all while paying the workers peanuts. They promise a revolution, but what we end up with is something that's worse than what we had before for everyone except the rich people at the top. And it'll keep happening as long as we, the public, keep falling for it. We need to start recognizing this pattern when it starts, not when it's already too late. So the next time the tech disruptor snake oil salesman shows up and starts tap dancing on your porch, promising you something too good to be true, just slam the door in his fucking face and go back to watching TV. Thank you so much for watching. If you're a TV executive, please hire me. I swear it was all in good fun. If you want to support videos like these, head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. $5 a month gets you every video I put out ad-free. For $15 a month, I will put your name in the credits of every single one of these video monologues. Look at the names of all of these wonderful folks. We also have a wonderful online community. We would love you to join. Head to patreon.com/Adam Conover. As always, if you would like to come see me do stand-up on the road, head to adamconover.net for all my tickets and tour dates. Hope to see you out there, and I'll see you very soon with the next video. That was actually me. I was actually the Zoom Kid. Watch. Zoom.